Hi, I'm Elena Hernandez. I work at the Sojourner Truth House as the community services associate. I'm sorry. Um, and I'm here to talk about my experience with cultural racism, what I've experienced. I grew up in a predominantly white town, being the only black person mostly in the class or in the grade even. And my experience with that, um, it kind of showed me how, being in a white setting, the only dark, I'm not actually dark, very dark, but um, I was in that sense because you know, I was the only black person. So it was mostly, little microaggressions or jokes or always being called out for looking different. Um,
Can you
like
think of some examples of that happened?
yeah, like I said, they always wanted me to straighten my hair. Like it was so pretty when it was straight. Um, it was like teachers treating me differently or acting like I did something wrong when I hadn't, compared to like my lighter or white friends. And I didn't realize what it could be until I was older. Um, it could be like racist stereotypes or whatever mind, they had as an adult.
But how did that make you feel as a child?
Mm, it just made me upset. Like, I couldn't figure out why it would be a teacher would talk to me like that or act like I was a lot older than I was. You know what I'm saying? Like, I should be more mature because I'm the only black person type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, black kids are looked at like they should be older or they should be acting a certain way compared to, a white kid. And I definitely saw that, in the school systems. Um, hmm.
So more was expected of you in a way than of white kids?
Yeah.
It was normal for white kids, but it was almost scary for black kids to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like threatened.
Well, not for you, but for the teacher and for the other kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. And I couldn't imagine being, like dark skinned and going through that because I think it's worse and I've seen worse. I've seen it happen worse to darker kids.
Really?
Yeah. I think there's examples like all over the country or in the news or whether we like pay attention to it or not. It's a problem even in the own black community, colorism. But being the only black person, it felt like I was experiencing colorism. I would just say racist ideologies now because I understand how I hold my own privilege being a light-skinned black person. And I'm a mixed black woman, I'm half white. So whether we want to call it out for what it is, like being a lighter complexion is a privilege because you're treated. It depends on, like, it dictates how someone is going to treat you, really. I've even seen it, like, from the, like, Latinx community or, some people's, another example, there was this boy, I know, but his family didn't want him dating black girls. Like...
He was a white boy?
No, he was Puerto Rican.
Ah, okay.
Actually, so I feel like that's a good example because there can be black Afro-Latinas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, his parents didn't want him dating a black girl. But I was also friends with his sister, and I would come over there and, like, hang out. And I didn't, like, know that until, like, a year or two into the friendship. And I'm like, well, what the heck? Like, I've been coming over to your house for, like, a year. And your parents don't want, like, your brother dating a black girl. That's just... it makes you feel so uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
because you realize people look at you differently. You know, they have these um, like,
Preconceived ideas.
yes, they
Yeah.
keep preconceived ideas about how you're gonna act or what you're gonna talk about or what you're gonna do, you know, all the time. And I had to realize that, like, even though these people, like, you going back to school, they're teaching me, you know, this is their job. They're gonna be human and look at me how they look at me with their prejudice or their love, whatever, their hate. So yeah, I think it took me until like the middle of high school to understand um, what colorism meant and how, again, going back, I'm sorry, I'm like going back.
That's okay.
And how I did have a privilege. I already knew I had a privilege growing up where I did grow up, but having a privilege in the world and everything, of having a lighter complexion. I think it's important to understand, even if you don't do it yourself, that our society puts complexions in this hierarchy. It happens, you know, with job positions, with beauty standards in our movies, commercials, in our magazines, everything. So it's once you realize, I feel like it's so easy to spot, and how, you know, if they put a black girl in a movie or in the lead, it's probably gonna be a lighter skinned, it looks racially ambiguous type of black girl, rather than a darker skinned black girl or someone with their natural hair, because it's been deemed as something not professional or not beautiful, which isn't the case. It's just pre-programmed thoughts that's been passed down, and it's ingrained. It really is ingrained in our society, whether we want to address it or not.
Yeah.
In middle school, I was on the dance team, and I was the only black girl on the dance team, and it was all white girls. I was friends with two girls, really. There was one Asian girl, and the other girl was Serbian. So she was still white, but she was very connected to her culture, and that's not, you know, white American culture. So she was like looked at weird for that. So there it was very cliquey, and like the parents were very cliquey too, and they wouldn't talk to like me or my parents or the other girls' parents at all, and it was just kind of, no one ever said anything to me explicitly, but they talked to me different. They like wanted me to do things that were different, and it was like obviously like it was something, even if it wasn't in their minds like racism, but it was something like they looked at me differently. You could just feel it, really. People don't have to explicitly call you the N-word or for you to feel like they're looking at you differently or treating you differently. But yeah, that would be one example. I was in there for a year, and I quit the next year because I did not want to be in it. But yeah, and like I was talking about my sister. My sister, she is about the same complexion as me. She might be a little lighter actually, but she has a 4A, 4B type of hair, which means it's curlier, it's coilier, and she was made fun of for that. You know, her natural hair, it wasn't loose and curly like mine is. So, you know, she's looked at as like more, it equates to like more black. So that's more that people can make fun of or use as their jokes, or, you know, and that really, it really did hurt her growing up, because my mom relaxed her hair so it was straighter and it was easier to like manage. And it took my sister years to like look at her natural hair and love it, or not compare herself to my hair and want my hair instead of her hair. When her hair is very beautiful and very curly, but it's just not loose and it's not falling it's growing out. It's not
Mhm.
growing down. So now she did the big chop and she, rocks her natural hair. But it really does take like years to unprogram.
Yeah.
Like looking at yourself in the mirror and not being like, well, I wish I had straighter hair or looser hair or something that's not, natural hair wasn't really showed in our media, or deemed as beautiful in the media for a very long time. I think now it's just beginning more to actually be, but yeah, she didn't have anyone to look up to who rocked their natural hair all the time, or that was available for her to look up to,
Sure. Sure.
So it takes a toll on your mental health and your self esteem when it's just you grow up and you're only compared to Eurocentric beauty standards. And we're very lucky to have social media now and like platforms where we can explore like what other people look like or how to love yourself or how to do your hair like how you want to do it or how to live your natural hair, whatever. But we're very privileged and lucky for that in our generation. But up until we were able to access that, it's just kind of like you feel so alone, but you're not. But you feel like isolated because you're in that community.
You're made to feel isolated,
Yeah.
whether people are conscious of it or not.